Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News, 1 o'clock p.m. here on April 30th. I do believe it is the last day of April. It's also the second last day of our work week here. It's a Thursday afternoon in Hampton Roads. We appreciate you joining us. We're joined, as always, by the People's Producer, Nia Campbell. Nia, when you hear the finality of April being near its end, what goes through your mind?
I can only think about May the 4th be with you. I don't know why that's stuck
in your head.
It is.
Now, early in May, there's these dueling puns that happen. You've got May the 4th be with you, and then you've got It's Gonna Be May, the classic In Sync riff.
April
or is it
showers
Backstreet Boys?
Brings Mayflowers.
April showers brings Mayflowers. We've had a decidedly low amount of April showers. In fact, we've had a historically low amount of April showers. Does that mean there will be no flowers?
I don't know, but there's also the saying, pretty as a magnolia in May. So May just has
I haven't even heard that one. Okay, well, maybe it is more than just the Star Wars and the Backstreet NSYNC boys. Okay, we're going to explore all of those puns once the month of May actually gets here. We'll have Evan Stewart in here later to talk about how that transition into May is going to feel. Spoiler alert, there might be some showers this weekend, but for the time being, for us here to start our show, yesterday we talked about the House Armed Services Committee speaking with, asking questions of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane. It's the first time lawmakers have been able to question Hegseth since the war in Iran started. Today, it goes from the House to the Senate. It's the Senate Armed Services Committee, the first time senators of the United States can ask questions of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. It's Elizabeth Warren doing so right now. Let's take that live.
Execute for the American people, and we do.
The law clearly prohibits the Secretary of Defense from owning stock in the 10 biggest defense contractors. Other senators and I sent you a letter with detailed questions about this, and you have not given us a response. So I'd like to hear you say, did you, through your broker at Morgan Stanley or otherwise, seek to invest in any defense-related funds right before Trump started the Iran war?
I'll give it to you as a big, fat negative.
Then let me ask you a second question. Is your broker getting your personal sign-off on any investment in individual stocks?
Bigger, fatter negative.
He's not getting your sign-off before he makes investments in defense stocks? Can I refer you to your
I'm not making investments, Senator.
I am asking, does he know that he has to get your sign-off before he does that?
Of course.
The time
I don't know what you're looking for, but you ain't going to find it.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
I would like to enter into the record the ethics agreement that the Secretary of Defense has signed, that he will sign off personally before his broker makes any attempt to buy defense stocks.
Is there objection?
Thank you.
Without objection, it will be admitted. Senator Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hegseth, you're doing a great job. I've been in Washington for 10 years, several secretaries of defense, now Secretary of War. You're the best that we've had since I've been in Washington. What you've done to restore readiness, restore military recruitment, get the Pentagon focused on warfighting is second to none. And I appreciate what you and President Trump and General Kane are doing very much. In fact, General Kane, according to the Department's 2025 China Military Power Report, quote, China believes the next revolution in military affairs will occur when militaries transition to intelligentized warfare and fully integrate artificial intelligence, big data, advanced computing, and other technologies into the joint force, end quote. Can you describe, General, in greater detail how the PLA is using AI to enhance its military capabilities?
You bet, Senator. They are attempting to integrate AI across the range of their warfighting functions, which extends to command and control, information advantage, intelligence, certainly kinetic and non-kinetic capabilities, and to a certain extent, sustainment. I'll note that so are we. and in many cases, we are out in front of them. I want to commend our Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence officers inside the Joint Force at the COCOMs with the services, who are also leaning very far in as we march towards a digitized joint force that allows us to see and command and control the force better.
The China Military Power Report also goes on to note that the Chinese AI sector remains, quote, constrained by its limited access to high-performance AI chips. General Kane, how big of an advantage is it for the American warfighter that America's arsenal of compute is bigger than China's?
Sir, it's critical to us, and while I acknowledge there's all kinds of chip issues in this, it is important to us to continue to scale at that. And I'll highlight a lot of the work going on up at Fort Meade that the committee's helped to advance in the cyber capabilities. So we appreciate the help with that.
If that advantage were eroded and China were able to develop more advanced AI capabilities as a result, what are some of the potential consequences for American warfighters?
Well, sir, it could certainly put us at risk, and that's why we're leaning in so hard. There's always a balance between commerce and protection. I acknowledge those are policy matters, I think, is what you're starting to get towards. But on a pure military-only standpoint, we would see some defense in depth eroded from that.
Secretary Hegseth, do you agree that enhanced Chinese AI capabilities could put American service members at risk?
Senator, we absolutely have to stay ahead. The advantage that AI provides apply to any number of capabilities, whether it's domain awareness, targeting cycles, you name it, AI and leveraging it, and that's why we've made it the forefront. I mean, it's AI first with everything that we do, integrating it at every potential echelon to ensure we can respond faster. If we're better at that than any adversary is, it's going to give us an advantage, and we have to maintain that.
I agree. Do you agree that we should do everything in our power to ensure that American service members go into battle with an overwhelming and fear-inducing technological advantage, particularly with AI?
Always. Overwhelming is the goal in every scenario.
Earlier this year, the Pentagon issued updated guidelines that prohibit department funds from supporting grants and contracts involving fundamental research collaboration with blacklisted Chinese entities. How important are those restrictions to safeguarding our technological leadership?
Have to have them, especially when you look at the power of models and all of those things. If you have connections to entities that could have connections to your adversary, and you can have degradation of your advantage.
Again, this is where I appreciate your leadership, Mr. Secretary, which has been second to none, and I know that you will work with Congress to help codify those restrictions and encourage taxpayer dollars to never advance the capabilities of our enemies and our adversaries. I appreciate both of your leadership. We've come a long way in a couple of years from, the night and day difference between the last administration and this administration is apparent to every Hoosier that I talk to. So I appreciate your leadership. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Senator Banks. Senator Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member. Gentlemen, welcome to the committee. I appreciate this discussion. I'll just start off. The number one question I get when I'm back home from people is basically very simply, when will this war end? We know the costs are that the American people are paying, both in higher fuel costs, our farmers are paying because of fertilizer cost. We know that the whole world economy is paying a great deal for this war. And basically, as I think that through, and this is what I want to talk to you about, is that we all know that it's a whole lot easier to go to war than it is to get out of war. That's always the tough question. And we've got to figure that out. And there are some folks who've written quite a bit about this. One text on war by Karl von Clausewitz. Mr. Secretary, I'm sure you're familiar with the book. I know all of the men and women in uniform are. It's the most widely read, most influential military strategy book in Western history, which is pretty broad. And it is the core curriculum that is read in all the war colleges. I read it when I was at the Navy War College taking courses. It's part of what the U.S. military thinks about when to go to war and then how to get out of the war. And one of those core principles it starts with is basically war is the continuation of politics by other means. That everybody knows that quote who's worn the uniform, and others too. It basically means there's two things about that. It's politics to get in the war, and it's politics to get out of the war. And in between, we rely on the men and women in the military to carry out those policies. So I want to be clear, and I think I speak for all of my colleagues, is that we know the military plays an important part. They need to do the job. And nobody questions the amazing work that our men and women in the U.S. military have done and continue to do. They've performed absolutely brilliantly, and we applaud all that they have done. However, what we do question is the politics part. It's a continuation of politics. So it's our political leaders that get us into war and our political leaders who have to get us out of that war, which falls on you, Mr. Secretary Hegseth, and others in the administration, including the President as Commander-in-Chief. So, Secretary, are you familiar with the concept in that book of center of gravity?
Sure.
So center of gravity is basically, as you know, it's basically the hub of all the power and movement. Everything depends on it. And Clausewitz will say if you don't take out the center of gravity, it's very difficult to win the war. You can have tactical successes, you can have military successes, but if you're not focused on that, you're not going to be able to win. Basically, he talks about military strikes are tactical, and tactical success doesn't necessarily create the political conditions necessary to get the parties to the table to negotiate and get it done. So we've got to focus on that. So my question for you, Mr. Secretary, what is the center of gravity for Iran?
Well, the center of gravity, as the president has seen it and as I see it, and he's talked about for 30 years, is their pursuit of a nuclear weapon and what they could do with that in pursuit as an extension of the radical ideology they have professed since the beginning of their revolution. So the prophetic ideology they profess alongside the most dangerous weapon in the world would be the center of gravity of the rationality of this undertaking, which
I appreciate it. I'll ask you to elaborate more. I appreciate it. General Kane, you know more about Clausewitz and strategy than I will ever know, including all the folks behind you. What would you consider the center of gravity as defined by Clausewitz in this type of war?
Well, sir, you're not going to love this answer, but I hope you'll respect it. War is politics by any other means.
Right.
And the political side of that necessitates that our political leaders determine what is the center of gravity associated with that. From a military-only perspective, there's a variety of things academically that we could look at for center of gravities, from leadership to will to capabilities to intent. But I'll defer to our political leaders to determine
that's
what
fine.
that is.
That's fair. I don't like it. You're right. But
I know,
and I know you know the answer to that, and you're just not telling me.
Well,
but I get why you're doing that.
my inner
but I
marshal.
would say, other observers say that basically it's not the leader. Usually, if you take out a leader, that doesn't necessarily make the changes. That in Iran's case, it's probably the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. That's the center of gravity. They're the ones that control the country, and they're very diverse to do that. The Americans' center of gravity is probably our economy and our ability to maintain public opinion support. We already know the public isn't there. We know the impact to our economy. And central to that is the leverage. And I'm running out of time here, but the central of leverage is the Strait of Hormuz. That is bottom line. We have to open that up. We have to take that away from Iran. The fact that we haven't done that yet, and we're 60 days in, we're just now bringing minesweepers from the Pacific in there. We have some unmanned opportunities.
Okay, now that hearing is ongoing, and I would anticipate us spending a good amount of time with that hearing over the course of today. We wanted to come out because we want to show you a live view that we just took here on one of our feeds. Now, it's been told to us by ABC Network that this is going to be, of course, they do Naya, how about that? We take the feed and they do sort of what do we have, a zoom in on the tablecloth here?
I think they're trying to focus.
You got to get the focus right, which we 100% respect and have had to do many times while out in the field, is find that focus, or maybe even a white balance there, since they kind of went in on that white tablecloth, the ins and outs of being a photographer. We wanted to bring this up, however, because it has been told to us by ABC Network that King Charles and Queen Camilla will attend the Front Royal 250th Celebration Parade in Warren County, Virginia, at or around this location. Now, when this came up on our live feed, we haven't seen King Charles or Queen Camilla yet. We did see Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger. She was on this screen just moments ago, sort of behind that gazebo type thing. And now we've kind of lost our visual of her, but Governor Spanberger does appear to be there. And if ABC's updates come to fruition here, we may have a situation where King Charles and Queen Camilla are in attendance at the same event as Abigail Spanberger. And will that manifest itself in a meeting between the two? We will see. But we wanted to make note of that because King Charles and Queen Camilla are closing in on the end of their state trip here. It's been a historic trip. They've met with Mayor Zohran Mamdani. They've met with New York Governor Kathy Hochul. They've met with, of course, President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. And now it looks like there's a possibility that they will meet Governor Spanberger, though we're still waiting on official information to trickle in on that sort. It looks like there's an athletic team over there to the left attending this celebration as a unit. So exciting stuff in Warren County, Virginia. We'll head back out to that. Oh, you know what? They do have the United Kingdom flags up there on the gazebo, adorned along with sort of other red, white, and blue decor. So this does look like they will be at the same event based on those context clues. And hopefully we get an opportunity to see them meet and chat. And I wonder if we'll hear from either Governor Spanberger or King Charles. It's something we'll be monitoring. For this time, though, we're going to go to a break. When we get back, we're going to come out of this live hearing and we're going to go to a pre-recorded portion of Secretary Hegseth's hearing because Senator Tim Kaine from right here in Virginia questioned him earlier today. That's coming up next. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. I'm going to go over this one more time here. The hearing with Secretary Hegseth and the Senate Armed Forces Committee, as well as General Dan Kaine, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is ongoing. It is live. The reason we are going to go back in time and show a pre-recorded portion of that hearing is because Virginia Senator Tim Kaine had his opportunity to question Secretary Hegseth and General Kaine. So we're going to listen in on that portion as our representative from right here in the Commonwealth participating in that hearing earlier today.
40+% increase from FY26. Am I right that not a penny of that is to go to a pay raise for the 800,000 civilians who work for the Department of Defense?
We have 4.2% of a civilian salary set aside for bonuses to make sure we can recognize high performers in the civilian workforce.
But you have guaranteed pay raises for the active duty and the Guard and Reserve component, but no guaranteed raises for
There are
civilians.
guaranteed raises for the military, but in the last year, this department's given out more civilian bonuses.
Well, if we're going to increase the defense budget by that much, I would hope the committee would take a look at this. Chairman Kaine, man, I like the sound of that, Chairman Kaine. General Kaine, I want to ask you a question about Southern Spear. It's an operational question. I know from your background that you carefully act to keep military actions within the rules of war. What legal justification could there possibly be that would allow the U.S. military to strike boats in international waters and kill the occupants of those boats without a showing of evidence that there's narcotics on those boats?
Well, sir, as you know, our job is to show the range of options, the associated risks, and then take those execution orders, transmit them down to the COCOMs on legally appropriate and legally backstopped actions.
Could you give me a legal justification?
Well, sir,
that
the
would, that would
execution order, I
authorize
don't have a
striking boats that do not have evidence that they're carrying narcotics?
I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't have a copy of the order issued to Southcom with me today. It's classified in its own right, which clearly articulates, based on a variety of criteria, what constitutes a valid military and legally valid target in that theater. And I know, I just want to say I know and trust that our commanders at Echelon are rigorously following that legal opinion and those legal boundaries upon which we've been issued those orders.
And General Kane, I would encourage, again, my colleagues, I am at a disadvantage. I've seen the legal opinion, but I can't talk about it because it's classified. I've seen the targeting criteria, but I can't talk about them because they're classified. I've seen the secret list of DTOs against whom we have declared war that even they haven't been informed of, but I can't talk about it because it's classified. But I would urge all of my colleagues to go to the SCIF and read the targeting criteria and get briefed about it, and then also look at all of the files of all the strikes that have taken place. I've done that with the first 46 strikes or so. And I think there's a profound mismatch between what is occurring and the underlying assumptions in the legal opinion. And I would just encourage my colleagues to dig into this. To Secretary Hegseth and General Kane, the War Powers Resolution specifies that a war initiated by a president without congressional approval must be concluded within 60 days. It can be extended by an additional 30 days if, quote, the president determines and certifies to Congress in writing that unavoidable military necessity respecting the safety of the U.S. Armed Forces requires the continued use of such armed forces in the course of bringing about a prompt removal of such forces. We're right at the 60-day deadline. Is the president intending to either seek congressional authorization for the war in Iran or send us the legally required certification that he needs an additional 30 days to remove U.S. forces from the war?
Just briefly on the previous question, we do know that these are designated terrorist organizations, so we treat them like the Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere, just as a note.
But that was not the question I asked.
I know there's more to that question. I just think it's important for the public to understand that. There's no willy-nilly targeting of drug boats. We know exactly who these people are affiliated with.
I was asking about what's on the boats.
On Iran, ultimately, I would defer to the White House and White House counsel on that. However, we are in a ceasefire right now, which our understanding means the 60-day clock pauses or stops in a ceasefire. We're not in. Yeah. It's our understanding, just so you know.
Okay, well, I do not believe the statute would support that. I think the 60 days runs maybe tomorrow, and it's going to pose a really important legal question for the administration. We have serious constitutional concerns, and we don't want to layer those with additional statutory concerns. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank
All right, back on Live Impact News, we got to hear from Secretary Kane as he questioned Pete Hegseth there. And we just had Governor Abigail Spanberger on screen. And then, you guys saw that, right? Everybody saw that? We had Governor Spanberger on screen there interacting with people, what looked like maybe some Boy Scouts. And as soon as we come on air to showcase and discuss, we move the camera over to a sign, Main Street and Chester Street, close to the shops. Not nearly as interesting as Governor Spanberger. Well, I'll tell you what, we are going to be in and out of this event, it seems like, for the majority of the afternoon. So I am not concerned about our coverage of this. I believe we will be able to see Governor Spanberger and hopefully King Charles and Queen Camilla, and hopefully the three of them interacting and sort of see what that's like and get an opportunity to witness the governor of our state here in the Commonwealth speaking with the King of the United Kingdom. Okay. I would say we take a break here. What do you think, Niam? Okay, let's go to a commercial break here. We have our forecast with Evan Stewart coming up. We might have time to get a few headlines in before we even get to that, but we'll fully discuss after this break. Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News. Here is the deal. We are expecting Evan Stewart to be here in studio in 3 or 4 minutes. So we don't quite have enough time to dive all the way into some of our big stories of the day that we kind of have recorded and prepped on, right? We have a couple of things that we want to get to later in the show if we have time. But in this small window, we don't have time. We don't want to have to cut that stuff off to get to Evan. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to stay live with the hearing involving Secretary Hegseth. Now, I will actually point out to Naya that a live press conference has just begun in San Francisco featuring a U.S. attorney and an assistant attorney general announcing a law enforcement operation. We've spent an ample amount of time with Hegseth. What do you say we go live out to San Francisco for this announcement?
That works for me.
Okay, let's do that. We're going live out to California while we anticipate Evan Stewart's arrival.
So today's presenters are, first we have Colin McDonald. Mr. McDonald's title is Assistant Attorney General for the National Fraud Enforcement Division. The spelling of his name is C-O-L-I-N. Last name McDonald, M-C-D-O-N-A-L-D. Next, we will have Craig H. Masakian. Mr. Masakian is the United States Attorney for the Northern District of California. Spelling of his name is C-R-A-I-G, middle initial H, last name M-I-S-S-A-K-I-A-N. Next, we will have Timothy Corshane. Mr. Corshane is the United States Attorney for the District of Arizona. Timothy, common spelling, and then Corshane is C-O-U-R-C-H-A-I-N-E. Next, we will have Sigal Chadha, and Ms. Chadha is the first Assistant United States Attorney for the District of Nevada. The spelling of her name is Sigal, last name Chattah. Now, standing on the stage will be from my right and your left. We'll have Jacob Foster. He is the Acting Healthcare Fraud Chief for the Fraud Division. Spelling of his name, Jacob, Jacob, Foster, Foster. Next, we'll have Sean Faust. He is the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Drug Enforcement Administration in the San Francisco Division. Spelling of his name is Shawn, last name Faust, Foust. Next, we will have...
Okay, she is clearly just going over all of the speakers there, which is extremely helpful for everyone involved. But for our purposes, we're going to explore some of our other live events while they kind of get everything set up over there from a housekeeping perspective. That includes Mike Johnson. He is now speaking at the podium. This just went live. Let's listen in on Capitol Hill.
Both of those critical functions of our government. We also passed the FISA reauthorization to ensure that the administration is armed with the best possible intelligence to continue eliminating terrorists and defending our homeland. We pray that the Senate can now pass our FISA bill as quickly as possible, and they're deliberating over that right now. Now, I just want to say that sometimes the process around here is cumbersome. That's the way this works, but in spite of our razor-thin, historically small majority, House Republicans continue to deliver for the American people. You will continue to do that for the remainder of the year. And that is a large reason why we are going to win the midterms so that the grown-ups can stay in charge here. Take a few questions.
Isn't this a solution on DHS that could have been passed days or weeks ago? Why did it take this long?
It could, and here's why. You heard me trash the bill when it came over the first time because it literally was drafted in the middle of the night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning when they came up with the final language, and it was haphazardly drafted. And what it would do is, of course, orphan and leave out immigration enforcement and Border Patrol. If you might remember, in 2024, the number one issue in the election was securing that border. House Republicans did it. The Trump administration, the president did that. And Democrats are upset about it. So they wanted to leave that out. They wanted to orphan these two critical agencies that are under the umbrella of Homeland Security. I remind everybody on the Hill all the time, Department of Homeland Security is the third largest department of the federal government. It has critical responsibilities. FEMA and the Secret Service and TSA and all these other agencies. But the Democrats said, we'll do some of that, but we're not going to fund border security and we're not going to fund immigration enforcement. That's absurd, and we threw a fit, and we had to. We held the Homeland bill, the underlying funding bill, because we had to ensure that they could not isolate and eliminate those two critical agencies. We are getting those done now. We passed the resolution first. That was critically important for us to do to ensure that we're going to protect the Homeland, even though Democrats are unwilling to do it. So now that that box is checked, we're allowed then to proceed and go through with the rest of it. This will relieve pressure from the Department of Homeland Security. Secretary Mullen, who I've spoken to in the last couple of hours, will be greatly relieved. The President will, the administration will. We're not going to have lines at TSA. Everybody will get their paychecks now. We'll get moving forward. And then we will finish the work and finally get, again, for 3 years, with no crazy Democrat reforms, we will fund Border Patrol and immigration enforcement as soon as we return for the work session when that bill is finalized.
On FISA, Mr. Speaker, what do you anticipate from the Senate? And are you concerned that whatever the Senate sends over might be a problem over here?
I'm not concerned. I hope that they're going to do the right thing. Look, we sent over a reauthorization that was with minor reforms and with the anti-CBDC measure on it. These are very simple things that the vast majority of Congress agrees with, and they should get it done. They're running out of time. As you know, it will expire tonight, the end of today. And so we're calling on them to do the job, pass the House's bill, and get this done. Check the last box.
They're not going to take the House bill.
Well, we're going to see. They don't seem to have another alternative. We'll find out how that works.
Yesterday, comments. Can you kind of explain what that was about? And
I don't know who you're quoting. Okay, so look, they often analogize legislating to making sausage. You don't want to see it made, and sometimes it's an ugly process. Sometimes it's a long process. I've never broken my word to a single person in this building. Nobody can tell you they can. There was a lot of emotion and frustration yesterday because sometimes when you have a small margin, as we do, we're currently working on a one-vote razor-thin margin because of absences and the rest. And people have different ideas, different priorities about very contentious pieces of legislation. The equations that we solved on legislation this week were virtually impossible. Many of you said it couldn't be done. But we got it done because ultimately we just used patience and frankly prayer. We get a lot of people together and we listen to their concerns and we try to get the disparate priorities handled. I've never asked a colleague in the Republican Party, ever, to violate a core principle. But sometimes we have to give up on our preferences because we are in a large body. On some of these bills, some of the ones that I just named for you, they're so complicated and so complex that you literally had irreconcilable demands on either side of the House Republican Conference. And so it takes a long time to work through that and get people to consensus. But we do that patiently, we do as we must, and we ultimately deliver. Don't doubt the House Republican majority. We always deliver for the American people. We did it again, in spite of the challenges, and we continue to do that.
Mr. Speaker, this is the third shutdown in 6 months. What will you do to prevent this from happening again, sir?
Okay, short and sweet from the House Leader Mike Johnson there. Okay, let's go ahead and take a commercial break. When we get back, that previous press conference we were talking about has started up in full. We'll head to that when we return if Evan Stewart's not here yet. For now, though, quick commercial. Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News. Evan Stewart's getting a couple things done with our engineering team right now. They're working on some stuff in the studio, so we await his arrival. We do anticipate him being here, but we have some time now to head out to San Francisco for the special law enforcement operation announcement from U.S. Attorney and Assistant Attorney General. Let's take a listen.
Directed the department to take immediate action to expand the National Fraud Enforcement Division into a robust litigating division capable of reaching any fraud, large or small, perpetrated against taxpayer dollars. And we are springing into action. Last week, the Fraud Division announced a historic $300 million grant program for state and local prosecutors to join the Department of Justice in our mission to combat fraud. We welcome all who share our concern for taxpayer dollars to join us in this mission. And I am pleased to announce today a major new Fraud Division initiative to combat healthcare fraud, the creation of the West Coast Healthcare Fraud Strike Force in Arizona, Nevada, and right here in the Northern District of California. The data shows that the need for this new strike force is urgent and undeniable. Healthcare fraud in these districts imposes an enormous and growing burden on American taxpayers as fraudsters exploit programs meant for the poor, needy, elderly, and disabled. Some of the most significant Medicaid, wound care, and digital health technology fraud cases have been prosecuted in these districts. This new regional strike force will be staffed by at least 10 prosecutors from the Fraud Division's Healthcare Fraud Section, who will be a force multiplier for these U.S. attorneys' offices to combat a healthcare fraud crisis that is robbing taxpayers and harming patients. Since the creation of the National Response Strike Force in 2020, healthcare fraud prosecutors from Washington, D.C. have been partnering with these U.S. attorneys' offices to prosecute cutting-edge cases on the West Coast. For instance, in Arizona just last year, we secured guilty pleas and sentences of 15 and a half and 14 years for 2 wound graft company owners stemming from a $1.2 billion wound graft scheme. We seized $126 million in assets, including cash, luxury vehicles, and gold bars, returning needed funds to the taxpayers. Separately, prosecutors have charged a $650 million Medicaid fraud scheme that exploited vulnerable substance abuse patients who did not receive the care that they needed. But partnering on cases from Washington, D.C. is not enough for the amount of healthcare fraud in these districts, and it's not enough for the vision that the National Fraud Enforcement Division is casting. We need more attorneys on the ground across the nation to combat this nationwide problem. That is why, only 22 days after the acting Attorney General announced the creation of the Fraud Division, we are expanding our footprint here. Today's new strike force builds on a proud tradition that stretches back almost 2 decades. Over that period, this program, now comprised of 9 strike forces operating in federal districts across the country, including the Central District of California, has charged more than 6,200 defendants who collectively billed federal health care programs and private insurers more than $45 billion. Our healthcare fraud strike force is a model that powerfully combines data analytics with traditional investigative techniques to produce rapid results. This new West Coast strike force carries that legacy forward with a sharper focus, expanded resources, cutting-edge data analytics, and the full weight of this department's commitment to protecting you, the American taxpayer. This strike force will operate in close collaboration with U.S. attorneys' offices, the FBI, HHS OIG, DEA, and our other law enforcement partners. We will use data analytics, cross-district regional coordination, and every available legal tool to identify, investigate, and prosecute these crimes with speed and efficiency. Let me be clear to anyone who is committing fraud in the healthcare industry in Arizona, Nevada, and California. This strike force is coming for you, whether you are committing fraud on the street, in a medical office, or in a boardroom. Healthcare fraud steals from American taxpayers, corrupts the integrity of the programs that the most vulnerable among us rely upon, and puts patients at risk. The Fraud Division will track emerging fraud trends and follow the data, and the data in our possession shines an inescapable light on those committing healthcare fraud. The creation of the Fraud Division marks a new chapter in this effort. Our ability to prosecute these crimes will grow even more sophisticated with each passing day, and we will not rest in pursuing justice on behalf of taxpayers and patients. Thank you all for being here, and I'll now turn the podium over to U.S. Attorney Craig Misakian.
Good morning. I'm Craig Misakian, the United States Attorney for the Northern District of California. I'd first like to begin by thanking AAG McDonald for his leadership in this very important area. I'd also like to welcome him and my colleagues, the U.S. Attorney from Arizona, Tim Corshane, the First Assistant U.S. Attorney from Nevada, Sigal Chattah. I'd like to welcome you all to the Northern District of California. I'd also like to welcome our law enforcement partners from the FBI.
All right, welcome back to Live Impact News as they announce the pursuit and deterrence of fraud there. First, Colin McDonald speaking, the United States Assistant Attorney General for the National Fraud Enforcement Division. And then right before we came to break, Craig Misakian, a U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of California. But we are actually going to go take a commercial break here. When we get back, I think we'll head back out to Northern Virginia, as I think the king has arrived at this event that Abigail Spanberger is at as well, based on what we're observing from the live feed. So a commercial break, and then we'll head back out there. All right, you're back here in the studio with us on Live Impact News. Here we go. We have Abigail Spanberger and King Charles walking together at this event there. A special moment for the governor of Virginia, I'm sure, as King Charles and Queen Camilla have made their way to the United States. At the very least, a unique moment, and one that we did not anticipate today, and that really through the assistance of Nia Campbell, the People's producer, we were able to sort of discern what was happening here. We don't know how much we'll be able to see, certainly not know how much we'll be able to hear, but we did, for once, sort of get lucky with when we took the camera, and we got a glimpse of Governor Spanberger walking with King Charles as King Charles nears the end of his time here on his state visit. He's spoken to Congress. He has met elected officials. He's met with the president. There's Abigail Spanberger, the first woman to be governor of Virginia, right in the sort of front of your screen there. And yeah, looks like a beautiful and sunny day in Northern Virginia. It does look like the two have kind of gone their separate ways in the midst of this meet and greet, but no less a moment for us here on Live Impact News to be able to capture the two of them walking. Now, for the most part, this is not the King and Queen of England fall into a ceremonial role now, right? That has been, again, for the most part, the role that they occupy in terms of global politics and British politics. But still, they are treated with sort of reverence still in wherever they go, and now they are here in Warren County, Virginia, with Governor Abigail Spanberger, who is someone who has made history herself, who now holds an indelible place in history as the first woman to be governor of Virginia. So an interesting moment to say the least here. And this is the Front Royal 250th Celebration Parade in Warren County, Virginia. Those 250th, America's 250th birthday celebrations continuing to ramp up, and now it looks like Governor Spanberger and King Charles have once again sort of reunited there. I know it's difficult to see, but on the right side of your screen, behind the woman with the red jacket on, you can see Spanberger and King Charles sort of chatting over to the side as they also interact with onlookers there and other attendees. Why don't we, I don't think we're going to be able to hear anything. Is it worth taking a listen, Naya? What do you think?
We can try.
Let's give it a try. We both know what's coming here. I don't think we're going to be able to hear anything, but hey, we're here. You know, we're in Warren County, Virginia. The King of England is here. Let's take a listen. Well, I wouldn't say that those sonics were devoid of joy, right? We have some nice tunes being played. Obviously, we were correct, at least in that we can't hear any of the actual interaction going on up there, but we continue to have a really good visual here of, again, Governor Abigail Spanberger of Virginia and King Charles of the United Kingdom shaking hands and moving along under this gazebo in Warren County, Virginia. And again, I don't have the history in front of me here, but how often something like this has happened, I certainly don't know. It is Charles' first state visit to the U.S. since he became king. We know that Queen Elizabeth visited President Donald Trump in 2019. We've certainly seen that other members of the royal family have come and gone more frequently. We know that Prince Harry even has taken up residence in the United States at times. So definitely an interesting and unique event. Maybe we'll do a little bit of research to see if anything like this has occurred before. But spending some real time together, King Charles and Governor Spanberger, sharing a laugh there, exchanging jokes. Hi, Campbell. We got some.
Possibly.
So we are hanging out here. We've got a lot of media, a lot of camera people gathered around this gazebo, but we have gotten quite a few glimpses of the King of England and the Governor of Virginia getting to interact a little bit as they move throughout and spending a lot of time with other attendees here. A lot of hands being shaken, a lot of pleasantries being exchanged, and we saw them say goodbye they went to Arlington National Cemetery earlier today. King Charles laid a wreath at Arlington National Cemetery, of course, a legendary memorial area in the United States and here on the East Coast. Again, yesterday, Governor Spanberger, not the only sort of state and local official that has met with the king since he's been here. Mayor Zohran Mamdani of New York City met with King Charles. Governor Kathy Hochul of New York met with King Charles. Of course, his trip to the White House, where he met with not only President Trump, but addressed all of Congress. And during his address to Congress, he certainly advocated for the strength of the relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom. They have been allies for decades and decades here. It's an allyship that has come under a decent amount of tension, if you will, as during the war in Iran, President Trump has been vocal in his desire for NATO allies to step in and play a role in the war in Iran. The United Kingdom has largely resisted that desire from President Trump. It's been Prime Minister Keir Starmer that has come under fire from the president for those decisions. Again, as we said, the king and queen hold mostly a ceremonial role in terms of just a very broad, big picture view of things, mostly a ceremonial role in both national and global politics. Now, that's not to say they don't have influence, right? They are obviously globally famous on a massive scale and also maintain, by all reports, a very high degree of wealth and assets to go along with their fame. So it is not as though they don't have a tremendous amount of influence, but just in terms of policy decision making, more ceremonial for the king and queen in terms of the role that they play, based on all reporting that we have seen. In the meantime, we're keeping an eye on the Senate Armed Forces Committee hearing with Secretary Hegseth. That appears to be headed to recess. Remember, we heard from Tim Kaine earlier in the show as he exchanged questions and answers with Secretary Hegseth. But for now, we maintain our focus here on Warren County, Virginia, as there's a good sort of much cleaner visual of King Charles as he moves throughout the crowd. Now, I don't see, there's Queen Camilla behind him. I don't see Governor Spanberger still with them, but they did spend a good amount of time together, so perhaps their time together is over. Now, we were wondering if we would get public comment at this event. Also, it definitely stands out how everywhere they go, just a massive throng of people follow. Everywhere, oh, there's Governor Spanberger right there on the right side of your screen behind the flagpole there. Everywhere the king and queen, and in this instance Governor Spanberger, go, is they are just surrounded by sort of a traveling amoeba of people, right? I mean, you've got security, you've got press, you've got attendees at this event who just want a handshake and to say hello and to take a picture. And so it's this traveling mass of people throughout this event. And I suppose you would assume that perhaps they're used to it by now, but I'm sure that if myself or the People's producer Nia Campbell, well, maybe not the People's producer Nia Campbell, you probably do have a crowd that gathers as you move throughout the city.
Luckily, I do not.
No.
I would not like that.
No, it'd be very strange.
It would.
Right? It'd be like, hey, everybody, go about your day. I'm just going to grab, something from 7-Eleven. But such is the price of immense fame and influence in this particular case. It looks like maybe that woman was showing off some sort of product there. What do we have, a book here? Queen Camilla being offered a book by someone who is in attendance. And she's going to hand that off for safekeeping. She said, I got a lot of hands to shake. I can't carry this book around, but thank you. Perhaps some light reading on the flight back.
King Charles is like, put that down.
King Charles said, we got a lot of hands to shake. We got to get moving here. Again, another look at Abigail Spanberger. She's almost kind of leading the pack as they head to their next destination. So here we are, Warren County, Virginia. We got a rather large rescue vehicle coming through behind the group, though it doesn't appear as though that is for any dangerous reason in particular, just another part of the ceremony. It looks like a beautiful day out there, quite sunny, as opposed to maybe a more sort of dreary outlook, or at least cloudy outlook that we have here in Hampton Roads. Speaking of which, we're still waiting on Evan Stewart. Evan Stewart is helping multiple of our coworkers as they work through some engineering things in the studio. That is why he has not made it in here yet, but we expect him to be in here pretty soon with your full forecast. And hey, the longer we wait, the more updates our meteorology team can get, and the more sure-handed of a forecast you will receive. Looks like we have some sort of flag. Oh, is that we have seen very similar sights to this during multiple of the stops as King Charles and Queen Camilla traveled through. You said color guard?
Yeah, so when it's with the band, it's called color guard or military.
So presentation of the flags. And there we have cheerleaders from the athletic team that we saw earlier.
I think that might have been like a school.
It was like the whole school's there.
I think so.
Okay, all
I don't
right.
want to make any assumptions.
Maybe
but
we
I know
can
that was
see.
a color guard because I was in color guard.
Oh, you were in color guard?
Yeah.
Wait, high school, college?
High school.
Ah, what was that like?
It was fun.
Yeah?
I was the most athletic when I was doing color guard.
Wow. That was when you were at your most athletic, or you were the most athletic color guard, or both?
Both.
Both. The most athletic. Were you carrying an actual flag?
Yeah.
Did you wear gloves?
Yeah.
It's very ceremonial. I don't know if I'd have the patience for it.
Well, not with the marching band. With the marching band is more so like visual.
Okay.
You're thinking military.
Yeah, I'm thinking like,
ROTC.
oh, you were doing sort of, Evan Stewart. Come on in, Evan Stewart. Don't hesitate. Okay, there goes Evan Stewart. And now, I forgot that we weren't on camera there. I've been talking so long, I'm getting delirious. No, I'm very excited about this. Now, you were in the band as the color guard. Were you doing the flags as like a form of sort of dance and celebration?
Yes.
Oh.
So like we would perform shows. One year it was like, what was it? The Great Gatsby, stuff like that. And then we put on a performance.
Oh, that's so cool. Could you, if someone handed you one of those flags right now, would it take a while to get back into it, or could you start doing?
I can pop right into it.
Can you toss it up in the air? It does a bunch of spins, and then you snag it on the way down. I never knew this about you. Finding out new facts here about Nia Campbell live on the air during Impact News. And here, right before we go to break, we have one more. Just finally, a very clear shot of Governor Spanberger and King Charles walking together throughout the area. They've been together for 30 minutes now. I wonder if they're getting any, kind of getting any real conversation in, getting to know each other a little bit. They do have, again, as we said, quite a few people around at all times. Okay, we are going to dip out of this for now. We've got Evan Stewart here in the studio. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to have a weather forecast when we get back, but that is certainly something that we will continue to check in on. There's Evan Stewart. Evan, how you doing?
Doing great.
I know you had a lot of work that you had to do out there to kind of get that studio ready. We appreciate that you're here. We're going to get that forecast right when we return. Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News. Now, as promised, meteorologist Evan Stewart is here. He joins us with more on the forecast. Evan, I'm looking at this live look behind you, ominous in terms of the cloud cover. How's everything actually going?
Yeah, I mean, it is still cloudy, but we are seeing some breaks in the clouds as well, and that's allowing temperatures to warm up just a little bit across the area. So we should see temperatures in the upper 60s and low 70s. You know, here's sort of a live look around town, and as we head up towards Williamsburg there, you can see, you know, there's quite a bit of blue. So we have started to see some of the clouds break up across the area. We have a weak area of low pressure that's just off our coast, and it's spinning off the Carolinas. And you can see it's pulling the clouds with it, but it is producing just a couple of showers as well. And as I mentioned, the good news is we are starting to see those clouds break up here across Hampton Road. So that will allow those temperatures to warm up. But we are tracking just a couple of sprinkles, mainly south of the Albemarle Sound. Been talking about those as we've gone here through the morning and into the afternoon. Those showers a little bit heavier as you get down into Hyde County, North Carolina, where we see some of the yellows and darker greens. But that is all sliding off towards the east. And temperatures out there are, you know, I think they're nice. I know some people would like them a little bit warmer since it's, what, tomorrow is it's going to be May, right? Isn't that what we say? Tomorrow's going to be May.
Very nice, Evan. Very nice. Yeah. Now, this is embarrassing to say, I could not pinpoint if that was NSYNC or Backstreet Boys earlier today. I couldn't quite pinpoint it.
And what did you come up with?
My initial answer was NSYNC, but then I changed it to Backstreet Boys, and I think that was correct.
Yeah, I'm not 100% positive.
Oh, we don't know either. Naya, anything?
I don't know.
Oh, this is embarrassing for us as a podcast. Okay, hold on just one second.
Well,
Evan, you can keep going.
It was JT.
It was Justin Timberlake?
Yeah.
Oh, then it is NSYNC.
Yeah. I thought it was.
Okay, that's definitely NSYNC. Can we get a ruling from Jamila in the back? It's a thumbs up from Jamila. It is, in fact, NSYNC. Okay, sounds good. I just looked it up. We were right.
Yeah.
Kind of. Ish. Okay, back to the forecast.
All right,
Sorry for the distraction.
Temperatures, you know, right now, ignore that front because that front's not there. I just couldn't find my other graphic here. The computer's running very slow. But we are in the 60s right now, 63 degrees in Norfolk right now, 69 in Edenton, and we are starting to see those clouds break up and give way to a little bit of sunshine. We should get up into the upper 60s, low 70s as we go into the afternoon. Of course, the big story coming up is the weekend. You know, tomorrow is going to be nice, but as we get into the weekend, we're going to be tracking some rain into the area as well. So let's get another little more detailed look at the forecast. Taking you here through the remainder of the day and into the evening, because we are going to see those clouds start to break up and give us some partly cloudy skies later this evening, and temperatures dropping back into the upper 50s and low 60s, nice and clear overnight. And Friday's looking nice, 40s and 50s, and we'll see temperatures again up into the upper 60s. It's the weekend that we're watching. You know, we've been talking about this 50-50 weekend over the last several days, and we'll start to see those showers working their way in as we go here through the day on Saturday, starting out off towards the south and working northward. And the big question will be how far north does that rain shield go? And the models have been trending back to the north. They went south, and now they're starting to trend back towards the north. So I think we will see that northward trend, which means for the weekend, it's going to be a 61, rain developing into the day on Saturday, so a chilly day. Some spots might not get out of the 50s. And then on Sunday, 66 degrees, mostly sunny and pleasant. So again, weekend plans, Saturday's not looking like the nicer of the 2 days.
Okay, Saturday not looking like the nicer of the 2 days, and earlier Saturday, the first half of Saturday, not looking like the worst of the two halves of Saturday.
The morning will be better than the afternoon.
For Saturday?
Yes.
Okay, so that has changed a bit.
A little bit. I mean, yesterday we were saying the rain developing through the day.
Now, I hate to do this to you because I know you guys have data coming in all the time. Are you able to pinpoint timing-wise what you expect? If that's kind of a fool's errand, then don't worry about it. But
well, no, we can. It's just that we've got 200 miles of coast, so
right.
So it's different depending on where it's going to be. So if you're asking specifically for me, Connor Reel,
yes,
what is it going to be for me and my life on Saturday?
Yes.
That's what you're asking?
I would like to apologize to the viewers at home for a very selfish question, but that was what I was asking.
I know,
The Virginia Beach area down, you know, down by the bay.
So you can see here, you know, even in the morning, you know, some showers starting to pop up in Virginia Beach. You know, northern areas will see the transition later, so that would be, you know, up across the peninsula. But notice that rain just pretty much socked in for Virginia Beach into the afternoon.
So there is no time period between when we wake up and the late afternoon when it won't be at least a little drizzly in that Virginia Beach area.
Well, that's when I would suggest wake up earlier. I know, it's a Saturday. I wouldn't
Nah,
do it
tell
either.
him. No, we're not. Come on now. We're not doing that.
I know.
Maybe I'll wake up early, go for a walk outside, then
Yeah.
go back to bed or
There
something
you go,
like that. Okay.
And again, you know, this timing will likely change a little bit. You know, we are getting, you know, new model information in all the time. So that's one of the models that we use. That is, you know, our in-house model, the graph. So here's another one, another model. This is the North American model. And when I looked at it earlier,
Oh, my word.
Yeah. So it had us into Friday and into the Friday night. It has the storm already a little bit farther north, even into the morning, and just has, you know, the whole area covered. So,
wow.
You know, that's why there is some difference there in the forecast. I think the models are going to be trending a little more in this direction. So, again, it's still just not going to be the nicest of days on Saturday, weather-wise.
Okay. All right. Well, at least we know. That's why, even if it's not going to be great, one, at least we know what we're getting into because of meteorologists like Evan Stewart, and at least there will be a little bit of moisture to alleviate some of those drought conditions. So
Yes.
those are the positives.
Yeah, and we definitely could use that because, you know, today is Thursday, so we always get the new drought report and the drought monitor in on Thursday. So let's see what the latest is looking like for that here across the area.
And I'm most excited to see that drought monitor on Monday. That I'm really looking forward to seeing if that has adjusted at all, if we've gotten rid of some of those maroons and those reds there. Even though
So we only get it every Thursday, so it won't be any different on Monday.
I cannot wait for the drought report next Thursday. 1 week from today, Niall. 1 week from today. No drought report on Monday. Would have been really embarrassing if you suggested there was.
Yeah, so you can see, it looks to me like the extreme area has expanded. I didn't think we had much into Virginia, but now up to South Boston and up into the foothills, you know, east of Lynchburg, you know, between Farmville and Lynchburg, getting out towards Elam, we are seeing, you know, more of the moderate. And it looks like the severe has encroached a little bit more across the Middle Peninsula and certainly the eastern shore. So, you know, any amount of rain would be welcome. I think Tim put out a number that we would have to get like 8 inches of rain to totally alleviate the drought.
Wow.
And you couldn't get that all at once, obviously, because 8 inches of rain would all wash, you know, away. So, you know, we would need several days of a good, steady soaking rain to really help the drought situation.
Okay, good to know. So not quite a full stop fix, but certainly better than nothing. And hopefully it doesn't totally destroy weekend plans. Hopefully we can kind of match those things together. It's unbelievable too how, you know, we look at this map here, right? And we've got drought conditions all over the United States, except for a few slivers where you would think, oh, what a relief for those areas. But then if you actually look at where those areas are, we've been seeing reports of tornadoes. We've been seeing reports of severe weather in those areas specifically. So nowhere in the country really is doing great in terms of weather right
and
now.
so, you know, that's the double-edged sword. Obviously, you don't want the severe weather, but you get the rain, so you don't have the drought conditions. You know, even central Texas, you know, we saw some of the devastating thunderstorms around Dallas, you know, and the tornadoes earlier this week, but of course there's no drought there because it has been the rain. And California, you know, which is typically, you know, drought-stricken. Of course, they have other issues with, you know, the lack of snow, and, you know, that serves as a lot of their water. But, you know, all the rain that we had earlier and the flooding, you know, around Los Angeles and San Diego, you know, they're not in a drought situation. And, you know, it's kind of weird to think for me, you know, that we're in a worse drought situation than, you know, say like around Las Vegas. And you always hear about the Southwest. You know, Las Vegas is just abnormally dry. And again, Lake Mead, terribly low, you know, as far as the water levels. And that's just been an ongoing situation for years and years, and a lot of politics involved in the river and the usage upstream and downstream and things like that. But, you know, then you get into the mountains, into the Rockies, and we were talking about the snow drought. I mean, you can see much of Utah, under a drought, and then you get into the exceptional drought into Colorado. So that's the snow drought that also impacts, the water levels and other conditions. And so much of the West, they rely on that snowpack to melt and run down the streams and stuff, and that's where a lot of the municipalities get their water supplies.
Okay, so good to know. And that we are not alone in our issues with drought-like conditions, and hopefully everywhere gets a little bit of a relief here. Now, I want to ask you about an aphorism that may or may not actually be mythical in its truth.
Okay.
People say that April showers bring May flowers.
Yes.
We have not had any April showers. Will there be a meaningful reduction in the amount of flower bloom that there is in May, or is that just purely some sort of,
Well,
myth?
I think now that we have irrigation and stuff, and
We've
people are
advanced
yeah,
beyond that, yes.
Yeah, people are watering their plants and stuff.
So you think, no, we should be okay?
Right. I mean, I think, certainly when you're talking about larger crops and things like that,
Right.
That as we go here into the spring and get into the, planting season, as we get the corn and soybeans and, weed into the ground around here and stuff, there will be implications. I already know, the strawberry fields are already open, so I'll make a pitch to the folks, who own the strawberry patches. You got the U-picks and, stuff like that. So head out towards Chesapeake and Pungo and, get some of those strawberries, because I know they're already starting.
Okay. Good to know, and hopefully for all of those affected, we get some easy solutions and some relief soon. Now, do we have more here? Do we have a 7-day that we need to get into?
Yes, we can give you that 7-day forecast here coming up. So today we'll probably be in the upper 60s, low 70s. As we get into the day tomorrow, 67, that rain coming in on Saturday, 66 into Sunday, and then warmer as we head into next week. And again, the warmer weather doesn't help the drought situation either, because it accelerates the evaporation rates and stuff. So, the sunshine and warmer weather doesn't help drought either.
Okay, good to know. Very much warmer weather coming. A little bit of rain this weekend, though. We'll see how it all comes together to impact our drought conditions for the time being. Hopefully everyone's weekend is relatively dry, and then of course it's going to get warm, which will be pleasant in a lot of ways as well coming up next week. Evan Stewart, we'll see you at 4:00 p.m. on 13 News Now.
I will be there, yes.
Okay, wonderful. We appreciate you taking a little bit of time with us here, and hopefully everything got fixed up in the studio for you. You're all ready to go.
Yes, we are ready to go at 4:00.
Okay, we did reveal to our audience that you were working with our engineers to fix some very pressing issues.
Yes, television is a visual medium, and so we were working on some of the lighting and stuff.
Okay, very good. You can see that lighting at 4 p.m. on 13 News Now.
Hopefully you don't notice any difference. That means we did our job.
See, if you don't notice it, right, it's like the center in football. If you don't notice that they messed up, they're probably doing a good job.
That's right.
Okay, that will do it for our weather forecast. We're going to take a commercial break. When we get back, more live events, more live Impact News. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. We're going to dive into an interesting story here that involves the state politics a little further north on the East Coast. State politics that ultimately go back to national politics, as they so often do. Now, the governor of Maine, Janet Mills, has dropped her bid for the United States Senate. She did that today, citing a lack of campaign funds in order to keep that race going in a very, very competitive contest in Maine. Now, with her dropping out, that means the new frontrunner is Graham Plattner. You may not have heard the name before. That is not surprising. He is relatively new to the political scene. He is a 41-year-old oyster farmer, and he is now going to be the frontrunner to represent the Democratic Party in a Senate race in Maine. Graham Plattner. He's kind of burst onto the scene here. Well, he and supporters and others who help with his campaign had a press conference earlier today. So we're going to listen in here, as he just had gotten, it had just become public news that he was likely to be the front runner. They have this campaign event. We want to take a listen. That's not Graham Plattner on the screen. He's coming up speaking later in the event. But let's see what they had to say in Maine here.
One of those ads, because we should remember that they were paid for by selling out Maine people. Selling out to wealthy and powerful interests from out of state.
Now, after discussing with Naya briefly over the last 3 to 4 seconds, we've actually decided we're going to fast forward through this until we get to Graham Plattner himself. This is not politics that's totally for us here in Virginia, so we just want to kind of get through some of the early stuff. Let's hear from Graham Plattner. Could potentially be a voting member of the Senate after the midterm elections. So let's listen into what he has to say as, again, burst onto the scene here. Janet Mills is the governor of Maine. She was making a bid for Senate in this midterm election, and she had to drop out. And so now Graham Plattner, this is an underdog story if you've ever seen one. I mean, Janet Mills was endorsed by Chuck Schumer, and now she is out of the race. So let's see what Graham Plattner has to say and where he might take this campaign.
I can't stress how much of an honor it is to be endorsed by people who have been doing this work for so long. We are lucky in Maine. We are lucky to have a politics at the local and state level that is still accessible, to have politicians and people in power who still stand up for those in their communities who can't sometimes stand up for themselves. That's the legacy behind me, and that's the legacy that we are now moving forward with in taking to Washington. We need a politics now that not only represents people, working people in the state, but a politics that is representative of them. We need people who work for a living in places of power, because we are the ones who know the daily struggles of the system we are living in. And it is an absolute honor to be endorsed by people who have known that truth for a very long time and have been fighting for the working families of Maine. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
We're going to do a couple questions, but then we have to get them out of here. Just raise your hand if you have a question.
Are you hoping to get Governor Mills' endorsement, and what would that mean? I reached out to the governor this morning, giving her my thanks for her decades of service to this state. I'm very much looking forward to working with her closely as we move forward.
Bonnie?
Hey, what do you say to voters who wanted to vote for Governor Mills and trying to get them on your side now?
We need to beat Susan Collins. That's what this project has been about since the beginning. That is exactly what the governor got in it to do as well. And I think we all at this moment need to come together and recognize that building power for working people across the state, that's how we're going to do it. And so I very much ask them to support us because the governor and I have been essentially engaged in the same project, which is eventually beating Susan Collins in November.
Ben.
Have you heard from Senator Schumer, and do you expect to soon?
We have had reach out from the DSCC, but I have not spoken to anybody yet.
Do you expect this, how is this going to change your campaign at all, especially with the primary not quite resolved, you still have one opponent, but has it changed things?
I'm going to take a nap. But look, and I've been asked this question a lot over the past few weeks about if we're transitioning. I just want to say we are doing something very different. The campaign that we have built, the organizing focus, the field operation that we've put together, This is something that does not look like most campaigns. We are trying to build a broad coalition of working class power in the state of Maine. That's what we're up to. And quite honestly, that looks the same. What we've been doing, the accessibility, the town halls, I'm going to take maybe a little bit of a break to catch up on my sleep, but we're going to continue doing exactly that, because at the end of the day, that is the kind of politics we are trying to build, and the only way to do it is to put in the work.
But no breaks now, so we gotta go. Sorry, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, so Plattner not speaking for long in the portion of the press conference that we recorded, but you get the idea of what's happening here. Again, building a campaign a different way, a focus on grassroots, a focus on the working class. You also heard Susan Collins, beating Susan Collins, that name mentioned multiple times. She is the Republican candidate in that Senate race, or the expected Republican candidate, at least, in that Senate race. So we'll see where that goes. Again, another unique race here that we see on the political spectrum. As for us here on Live Impact News, we are going to take a commercial break. When we get back, we've got more news from earlier today that we want to make sure we discuss. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News here. We're going to move on with a story that occurred earlier today in full. Well, frankly, this story has been in the news since February. On February 27th, police officer Joseph Magnano fatally shot and killed Stevie Jones, a 55-year-old black man whose family said he was experiencing a mental health crisis. Now, that police officer has been fired. This all occurred in Hartford, Connecticut. The mayor of Hartford has said that he was disturbed by the body camera footage that showed that fatal shooting. Now, Ben Crump and members of the NAACP took to the podium in Hartford earlier today to discuss this case and potentially what's to come. And we were able to record that press conference, and we're going to play a portion of that for you now.
Justice for Stevie Jones. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Come on, NAACP. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. All right now. Y'all may be seated. You may be seated. We'd like to thank each and every one for coming out this morning. This is the NAACP's annual lobby day for our youth and college division. Young people, please give yourselves a round of applause for coming on out. We will be here all day mobilizing and organizing to strive to make changes in the communities that we serve. On behalf of the NAACP, the largest and oldest civil rights organization in the world with our 500,000 members, 2,200 branches. In Connecticut, we have 16 branches, 8 college chapters, and 8 youth councils. We have 32 units across the state, and we will all be here organizing and mobilizing to make a significant change in our communities. And one of the top issues that are going on right now is a situation that occurred in Hartford, Connecticut, with a family member of the, we have Audrey Jones here today, a family member of Stevie Jones, Stevie Jones, who was murdered in cold blood in Hartford during a mental health crisis. We have attorney Ben Crump in town today. Let's give attorney Ben Crump a well-deserved round of applause. And his team. Y'all can do better than that now. And his team that are representing the Stevie Jones family. We also have State Representative Nolan here from New London, who's a former police officer. And we have national staff from the NAACP that's come in town. Let's see, Darrell Wilson, State Representative Darrell Wilson, who's a former NAACP state president. Let's give him a round of applause. We have our branch president from Hartford, Corey Betts, here. Let's give him a round of applause as well. So listen, we passed a police accountability bill in 2020, striving to get better training for officers in our communities. But we see that this has not been enough. It has not been enough. And we're here today with the Black Attorney General, that's been representing black people from all across this nation, Attorney Ben Crump, and his team, to help us strengthen the laws here in the state of Connecticut and be a model for other communities across the nation. By the grace of God, I'm also the National Criminal Justice Chair for the NAACP. And what we're striving to do not only here is to help people all across this nation. So when Attorney Ben Crump comes up and his team, they will talk about how we want to bring a law on the floor here in Connecticut, a bill on the floor here in Connecticut, to strive to have stronger teeth in the law, right, where we will have implementation and accountability. Amen. Implementation and accountability, not just training, but we want to hold officers accountable that don't carry out the training. Do you understand? Amen. So we're going to give an opportunity for Attorney Ben Crump to come up now and talk clearly in reference to what we're going to be asking the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus and other legislators in the state of Connecticut to carry out here in the state of Connecticut. So let's give a well-deserved round of applause to our Attorney General, Attorney Ben Crump. Let's give him a well-deserved round of applause.
Justice for Stevie Jones.
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 Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, President Scott Xdale, for your leadership in times such as these. Y'all, Scott is the kind of leader that not only represents you all here in Connecticut, but he represents you all across America. And now more than ever, we need leaders that are not afraid to speak truth to power. And that is what you have in President Scott X. Y'all, please give him a big round of applause to let him know that we appreciate his leadership now more than ever. I mean, you all see what's going on in America today. I mean, now we do need great leaders. So I'm so honored that we have Representative Nolan here and Representative Durrell, leaders who stand with our community and let people know where they stand. It's one thing for people to say, I helped you out when we in closed doors. There's another thing when people come and stand with you and let the world see where we stand. And we stand up for Stevie Jones. We stand up for our children to have a better education. We stand up for our children to have a democratic form of government. And we stand up for our people to be able to have a right to vote in America without all this voter suppression, even if the United States Supreme Court tries to tell us it's legal. I am reminded, Scott X, about what Dr. King said in his letter from the Birmingham jail. He said a lot in that letter. Everybody remembers when he said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But I think equally important and so befitting for today in America, we must remember the other part that Dr. King said in that letter from the Birmingham jail, where he said, just because they tell us it's legal, that don't make it right. That's right. And I know the Supreme Court said yesterday it was legal to suppress the vote of black and brown people throughout America. And I'm reminded again what Dr. King said, just because they say it's legal, that don't make it right. Representative Nolan, he said that we must remember that everything Hitler said and did to the Jews in Germany, they said was legal. But Dr. King said that didn't make it right. He said we must remember that they said slavery was legal. But Dr. King said, but that don't make it right. He said we must remember that they said segregation was legal. But Dr. King said, but that don't make it right. And Scott X, he said we must remember everything they did to that little boy in Money, Mississippi named Emmett Till. They tried to tell us it was legal. But Dr. King said, that don't make it right. So young people in the NAACP youth program, if you remember nothing else we say today, remember those words of Martin Luther King from that Birmingham letter from the jail, when he said, when they tell us it's legal, that don't make it right just because they say it. We know in our heart what is right. We know that the Constitution should be real for all Americans and that we live in a democracy that says every person has a right to a vote and that vote should count and not be dismantled or gerrymandered. And I know, Scott, we going more than what we were planning to say today, but it would be robbery if we came here this day at the United States Supreme Court gutted the voter rights for America that Martin Luther King and John Lewis and Fannie Lou Hamer fought so gallantly. I mean, they gave their lives for us to have this right to vote. President Betts, they gave their lives, sacrificed so much. You all do understand what's happening in America today. The governor of Louisiana went back after the Supreme Court made this decision, and even though they had already started early voting, he went back and said they're going to redraw the districts. So the only two black congressional members in the state of Louisiana, after they draw those districts, will be erased. And there will be no black congressional leaders from the state of Louisiana. That's why we have to tell the Supreme Court, just because you say it's legal, that don't make it right. We ain't going back. We ain't going back. So I'm so grateful, President Scott X, Representative Nolan, Representative Durrell, the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus, to have the opportunity to talk about how we stand up for justice and show our young people, the future civil rights leaders and civil rights lawyers and social justice warriors, how you speak truth to power. Even when they seem to have overwhelming odds, we still speak truth to power. Because we know if our ancestors can overcome what they went through for us to be here today, then we can sacrifice so we can overcome, so y'all will have a better America, a better world. So that's what we're here today for. And I know President Scott X, we got asked by the media a lot about what were we calling for today. So thanks to the help of Attorney Chance Lynch, Mr. Alfonso McClendon, President Corey Betts, who also deserves a round of applause, a great NAACP leadership. And of course, my brother Scott X, who is not a lawyer but plays one on TV. We're here in our representation of Stevie Jones, but we're speaking for all of those people who have mental health issues and those family members who have loved ones who have mental health issues. And when they have mental health crises, it shouldn't end up being a death sentence.
That's right.
That's what it's about. And we have Stevie Jones' big sister, Audrey, who's going to speak to you all in a little while. And, you know, Stevie, everybody seemed to have loved them in the community. And you all, Attorney Chance Lynch and I, we believe we're skillful lawyers, but there's nothing else we can say that is more compelling than what you see in that police body camera videos. I mean, you see for 12 minutes, officers are trying to de-escalate the situation. And then you have this officer who comes up in his police car in broad daylight. After they're talking to him, you see Stevie, who is responding to their efforts to de-escalate the situation. You see he has the little knife by his side, and he's interacting with the officers. This officer, this brazen officer, Representative Nolan, gets out of his vehicle, draws his weapon, within 30 seconds, tells him, drop the weapon, and then unloads, empties the clip. I mean, Stephen Jones could not have looked less aggressive. You watch the video, you judge for yourself. There were so many things that could have clip. And this brother, he was mental hand. He not have hold in his body. Him work. Video of the officers, and tragically, it fell on deaf ears because that one officer came and unloaded. And our legal argument is no secret at all what we're going to put forth in court, Scott X, because it's elementary. You future civil rights lawyers, the easiest argument to make is one that is based on truth. And the truth is simply this. Either the city of Hartford got to be accountable to Stevie Jones's family based on these two variables. Number one, either the policy of Hartford law enforcement use of force has to be, you can use all the officers. You use deadly force if you believe it's a life or death situation. You employ deadly force. That's one. Or two, if you don't believe it's a life or death situation, then you don't employ deadly force. Non-lethal force. So either the three officers who didn't shoot were wrong because they did not perceive a life or death situation, or the one officer who shot was wrong because he perceived the life or death situation. But you can't have it both ways. Either the three officers who didn't shoot was wrong, or the one officer who did shoot was wrong. And I submit to you, it is clear. Ray Charles could see it. That one officer was wrong when he emptied his clip into Stevie Jones' body.
Okay, there you are, Ben Crump and members of the NAACP speaking about this case. And based on the tenor of that press conference, it is likely that there is more to come in that case out of Hartford, Connecticut, involving Stevie Jones and his family and the police department. So we'll continue to cover that as the months progress. For the time being, we're going to take a commercial break. When we get back, an update on new legislation in North Carolina that could have a major impact on healthcare coming up next. Okay, I know we mentioned North Carolina Governor Josh Stein gave a press conference about new legislation in North Carolina, but as is the case with Live Impact News, a new event has popped up on our screen. President Donald Trump is signing an executive order. He's speaking about that executive order in the Oval Office now. Let's go to Washington, D.C.
To be joined by incredible people that I know and the warriors. Jason Smith, these are Congress people. Brian Stile, Mike Carey, Lloyd Smucker, Bill Heisinger, Ryan McKenzie, John McGuire, Zach Nunn, Derek Van Orden, Jeff Crank, Nick Begich, Monica De La Cruz, and Mike Lawler. Warriors, every one of them. They're great people. They fought very hard for what we're about to sign. And since my election, the stock market has set 59, this is in a little bit more than a year, 59 all-time record highs, adding $9 trillion in value to really the value of our country, if you think about it. Under 4 years of Biden, the average 401k rose at a rate of just $875 a year. Last year, under Trump, the average 401k balance was up $24,000. So $875 versus $24,000, I would say that's pretty good. This is really incredible. The numbers are incredible. The numbers being invested in our country are more incredible than anything. You see it. There are plants being built all over the USA. We have auto plants, not just AI. AI is doing great. We're leading China by quite a bit. But we have auto plants being built all over the country. They're coming back from Canada. They're coming back from Mexico, Germany, Japan, South Korea. Wherever they build autos, they're coming here. Nobody ever thought they'd see that. The union loves me. I did very well with the auto workers, but they like me a lot more now than they did when I was just talking about it. Beginning at the start of next year, every American will be able to go to TrumpIRA.gov and open a new low-cost IRA account. You'll then be able to access the same type of retirement accounts that federal employees enjoy through the thrift savings plans, which are incredible. As part of the Federal Savers Match Program, low-income Americans will be eligible to receive up to $1,000 per year in matching funds deposited directly into their accounts. It's a great thing. For millions of Americans who lack employer-sponsored plans, this will be really revolutionary because they'll be covered. Nobody thought that was possible. For example, if a 25-year-old who is eligible for a Savers Match Program invests just $165 a month under the matching federal contributions, they will have an estimated $465,000 in their account by the time they're 65 years old. In other words, they'll be rich. And there's something awfully nice about that. But this is only the first step. I was talking to Kevin Hassett a little while ago, and the people standing right behind me, we're going to take it to the next level. And the next level, Kevin, you're going to mention something, but the next level will be necessary to have congressional approval. What you just heard, we don't need congressional approval. And it'll never be terminated, because to terminate it, if somebody else is in office, to terminate it, you'd have to take that money away. You'd have to really take away something that's so positive. I don't think any politician would do it. But to take it to the next level, we need congressional approval, which should be very easy to get. It should be bipartisan. Normally it would be bipartisan, but today, nothing's bipartisan, right? I mean, it should be something that everybody supports. So, Kevin, before we start, maybe you could just explain what we're talking about for the next level.
Right. So for the next level, sir, what we're already talking, Chairman Smith and I about, and I've been talking with Mr. Smucker about this for a number of years, is that we're going to expand this program that you're creating here, which is for low-income people, to middle income people and maybe above as well, so that every American, most high-income people have an employer that gives them a 401k with a match, but low-income people or Uber drivers or something, they don't have access to that. They don't have access to the match. What you've done here is you've given the match to low-income people with incomes below $35,000. But we think that there are a lot of people, even who make more than that don't have many assets for retirement. And so we're working with Congress to significantly expand this program, and we're looking forward for legislation this year to expand this.
And also the Trump accounts, you remember, with Michael Dell, Susan, and the group that we had are setting records.
We have
the numbers.
5 million signups right now, sir.
5 million signups in a short period of time, far above what we thought even possible. So congratulations to everybody that got that started. Michael Dell put in $6,250,000,000. That's a lot. He put in a lot of money, and he's going to do more too. But they were very responsible. So I just want to let you know it's like record. You are even surprised by that number, I think, right? I don't know if we can do that kind, but it's really way beyond what anyone thought. It's great. And we're going to be doing the same thing, I guess, in a certain way for older people. We're going with a plan that if it works, has to get approved by Congress, but we think it'll get approved. It'll be fantastic for the country. Let's go. Will, do you want to start?
Sure.
There's some other things, and we thought we'd let these great people from Congress and beyond, or below, I guess I could say.
So first, sir, this is the IRA executive order that you just mentioned.
Okay.
This establishes the retirement.
All right, so there you have President Trump in the Oval Office signing executive orders. That is going to unfortunately be our last thing that we cover today. We will just briefly mention that North Carolina bill is for $319 million in funding for Medicaid in the state. We didn't get to that sound from Governor Stein. Perhaps we'll have time later in the week. Only one more day left in the week. We hope to see everybody there tomorrow. Live Impact News. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.